Na 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 na
Na na na na na na.
The Jim and Zopecast.
The Jim and Zopecast.
The Jim and Zopecast.
The Jim and Zopecast. The views and opinions expressed on the Jim and Zopecast are solely those of the individual stating them and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Jim and Zopecast. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey, Pittsburgh, are you ready?
Loading Jim and Zopecast.
Here we go, Steelers. Beat 'em Bucks. Let's go, Pens. Live from the Mixler and the pulse of all things Steel City, it's Pittsburgh's favorite podcast, starring Jim.
What's up? Welcome to the Jim and Zopecast. We got celebrities and a bunch of shit. Also, talk about virtual reality sometimes and ghosts.
What the fuck?
And Zope.
Ugh.
This is terrible. Come on, Jim. What are you doing?
Oh, I thought you were playing me something. I didn't know you were doing it.
No, that was me doing it.
Oh, Christ, dude. I don't know what to fucking say. Man.
Actually, I think that was it.
It's the Jim and Zopecast.
Hey guys, this is Jenna Manson from Images by Jenna Manson. You can find me on Facebook at Images by Jenna Manson or CuriousGoods.BigCartel.com is where you can buy some of my products. You're listening to the Jim and Zopecast.
So, Jim, can you hear me?
I hear you. I didn't hear any of that though.
Oh, that's pretty weird. It came through to Mixler though. Go ahead and talk right now.
Hello, test
yeah.
1, 2.
No, you're good. We're good. Well, I don't know, so I guess you were unlucky to hear that awesome intro. By the way, you didn't know, but I threw in a clip of you crying. Yep.
It had to be.
Clip.
It has to be something on your end then. With your Voice Meter Pro.
It was probably adding OBS to the mix. Might have screwed with it a little bit. I mean, to throw that in at the very last second, that there was going to be some issues, but. So, do you want to tell everybody what they're doing?
Well, right now they're listening or watching, depending on if we get any video up, Chapter 55 of the Jim and Zopecast. That's what they're doing.
We do have video right now. I'm recording it.
So am I.
So, you're also... Dude, we only need one recording. Why are you taking that chance? If your computer runs low on memory... Huh?
We'll see what happens.
Oh my god, dude. So why am I even doing it then? Dude, I told you, my computer runs just fine. It's going to have zero issues. Oh my god.
I know, I'll stop it. So this is 55?
I guess it's not an important episode or anything, so you could probably just mess around. Yes, this is chapter 55. Let's see.
I'm such a stickler for this freaking wording being mirrored. It took me so long to fix this shit.
Dude, I can reverse this on whenever I go through and upload the video. I can reverse the entire thing, but it looks fine. Huh?
It won't reverse my image, though.
Yeah, it will.
Like my word backwards.
No, it will reverse it, dude. I can do that.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
Dude, I got all this video editing stuff for a reason. Anyways, let's see. We have an awesome show planned. We have the biggest celebrity in Jim and Zopecast history. That's right. We have Piglet. We have Travis Oates, who does the voice of Piglet. He is a director, a writer, an actor, a voice actor. Wait, did he do actually acting? Or has he just done voice acting?
I don't think he did regular. I don't believe we can ask him, obviously. I know he hosted a show on G4, which is the gaming channel.
Dude, don't ask him that.
Will Wheaton.
God, these celebrity types, they get real crazy. Don't ask him questions like that.
Well, then we'll have internet gold if he flips out on us live on our show.
That would be the greatest thing ever.
You're damn right. But yeah, so other than that, obviously, I mean, on my screen here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on yours, but I have the poster for his movie that he directed and wrote that we watched together, and I watched before that.
It looks...
Don't blink.
The quality of the webcam is so bad that it looks like... It might as well be like a Star Wars movie poster. Is that a lightsaber in the middle? What is that?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Now, I think once it's reversed, it'll be you'll be able to tell more. You know what I mean? You just actually, you know what I think would help you out too, if you had more lights in your, just put some lights in the back, wherever you have the camera positioned right now, Jim. If you put some like light behind it, it would totally clear up your image.
All right.
Well, I'm not telling you to do that now. Oh, for the love of God! All right, so while Jim is gone, for the rest of the show, besides the interview, we might talk about VR. Since I got to let Jim, Greg, and Cassie try it, and it was pretty awesome. Cassie absolutely lost her mind, so I kind of wanted to talk about that. Might go over some P-Go, some Pokemon Go. I don't know. We'll find out if Jim's started playing it yet.
No, we will not be talking about that.
Jim, it definitely does look better with light.
All right, well, there you go.
It'd probably look even better if you put a fog machine on there.
All right, let's do it.
Let's get that fog machine back in there, dude. Let's see. Well, you want to tell them where they can find us?
Sure. Before we do start, remember you can find us all over the internet. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, TuneIn. Just search Jim and Zope or Jim and Zope Cast. I did make a post on our Twitter regarding this, and I tagged, or not tagged, I don't know how you consider it. I put his name on it. So everybody on his page is going to see that. So maybe we'll get some live listens.
Jim's the master of Twitter now because I have zero. I never use Twitter. You're like, yeah, just look, check out the DMs. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I don't know, dude. I see it coming through on email. Jim is.
What gets me is that you can just be. You don't have to overthink it. You can just type something real little, and as long as you put the right people, people are going to see it.
Jim has the fun job of getting us people on the show. It's a good job, Jim.
I try.
If he ends up being a dick, though, I'm going to blame this on you. Be like, man, that guy was a dick. It's probably Jim's fault.
Good or bad, I think it's going to be internet gold.
Let's see.
Oh, we had a retweet.
Let's go over our month. Let's see. I went wakeboarding again. So I'm starting to get into wakeboarding again. I freaking really enjoy that. I'm still doing that insanity workout.
Yeah, you haven't talked about that.
I haven't talked about what, the wakeboarding?
Yeah, I remember when I first got into it. It was all you were about.
Well, I mean, I just, with my dad kind of away and stuff like that, I don't really get the opportunity to go out on the river anymore. But I started getting the opportunity now that my buddy Mitchell, I've just been going out on his parents' boat, and they'll take us wakeboarding and stuff like that. It's pretty badass. I'm like so out of shape compared to what I used to be, so I've been trying to like get more into shape, which is why I've been doing that insanity workout, which I do recommend for people that are like interested in doing something that doesn't require them going to the gym, because I couldn't have gone to the gym and lost weight this fast. I mean, it's pretty damn ridiculous. And I just made it into the second month of it, and my God, is it brutal. Dude, I burned over 1,000 calories today doing this workout. It's like a friggin' meal. Actually, that was like my breakfast and lunch combined. Burned it all.
Is there any details you can say about it to get people to know what it is?
I hate going into like workout stuff because people either really don't want to hear about it. You know what I mean? Like I've listened to radio stations where they'll like, oh yeah, you gotta try this workout, and usually like if I'm not in the mood for working out, I don't want to hear about people working out. Like it's just not it. So that's really, I'm just making the recommendation. It's very tough, and that's about as much as I want to say. And if you don't feel like doing it, then don't do it. I mean, I just personally want to do it because I'm going on a trip soon to the beach, and I want to get more into shape so I can. It's going to be a tough. It's not like an easy camping. It's like a hard camping trip where I have to like, you know, whatever. You know, I'm trying to like get myself like souped up for like Naked and Afraid or something like that.
Oh my God.
So I just wanted to get in. I want to get into shape, dude. I want to start trying to get into like survival stuff. I might get some. I might get some cool audio clips or something from the beach. Probably not, since I think it'll be just like me and one other person there. But whatever. But yeah, that was my upcoming vacation. What did you do this past couple weeks? Besides get Travis on here.
Nothing really. I I want to give a shout out to my son. Started first grade today.
Oh.
Time is flying.
Does he listen to the show?
No.
Well, then what are you doing? Give him a shout
For
out.
him to listen later.
Oh, okay.
Like when he's like not a kid anymore. This shit's going to be on internet.
He's going to be like, my
vaults
dad's
all
an
over the
asshole.
world. He's going to be 12, 13 years old and be like, this is my dad on the radio or on the internet.
It just dawned on me. This is the second Travis we've tried to get on the show. Remember we tried to get Travis Walton on the show? I wish they that they would re-abduct him. Since he didn't come on our show, I hope he gets abducted again and they stick another needle in his eye. And this time he doesn't get a movie out of it.
Yeah, I would love to at least get a reply. That's the worst thing is when people don't reply. That's one thing I'll say about Travis Oates tonight. He replied the next day, and he's been all about it and making the effort. And even though he knows by now that we're pretty much nobodies, he's listened to a couple of our episodes. He still agreed to come on, so he's all right in my book.
Yeah, he made way more effort than I actually expected him to, because I'm not even, if I had that busy of a schedule, I'm not even sure if I would have put that kind of effort in. I mean, because it sounds like he's got a pretty damn busy schedule. I mean, I have a hard time doing the show sometimes, and he's got to have more going on than me. So,
well, obviously. Whenever he said I have a meeting at Fox, which I don't even want to say that out loud, but I don't know. And he said, I'll try to be on. So let's get him on.
What's going on, Travis?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Pretty good, man. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me in.
Yeah. Are you calling in or are you doing video?
I called with the video cast, but the video's not up.
That's fine.
I noticed.
If the video doesn't, sometimes whenever it goes into a group call, there's like a little icon that it'll actually take the video camera and it'll put a little slash through it saying that the video is cut off, because for some reason whenever you join a group call, it kills the video. I had to actually just re-enable mine. But,
weird.
But whether you have it or not is cool with us.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any. I'm not seeing an icon to be able to get video. This happened to me actually yesterday on a group call too. So I don't know.
No worries.
Doing it on an iPad, so.
No, that's cool. What iPad is? Sorry, I'm a geek. What iPad is it?
iPad 2.
iPad 2?
No, yeah, I think so.
You're a celebrity. I expect you to have better Apple.
I know.
stuff.
I know. Well, I do have like 3 iPads, so if that makes any difference. But I think this is the iPad. You know what? I think actually this one is the iPad, the slimmer iPad, but I don't know which one that is.
No,
the problem is like they have one that was just called like iPad, like somewhere in the middle of there. So I lose track as to which iPad is which.
Yeah, they actually had an iPad that was called the new iPad.
Yeah.
Which was probably one of the worst names I've ever heard in the history of devices.
Yeah. Thanks for confusing all of us out there in the tech world.
I actually have a first gen iPad that I still use to today.
Well, there you go.
The very first iPad ever released, I still have. It looks in mint condition, and I haven't upgraded.
All right, let's get in.
That is great. I'm having a monster knock at my door. My son right now is running around the house as a T-Rex.
That's totally awesome, and we appreciate it.
If you hear the sound of a T-Rex coming in and trying to devour me, that's my son.
I have my dog constantly barking on our podcast, so it's really nothing out of the ordinary. It's completely acceptable. So how's your day going? I know, luckily today you didn't have to have your meeting with Fox or anything.
Yeah. Thanks. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, last week I had a meeting with Fox 21 on a project, and so I'm keeping my fingers crossed on how that goes. But yeah, today is blissfully, with the exception of this wonderful podcast, blissfully event-free.
No, we're pretty pumped to have you on the podcast. I mean, you're the biggest celebrity that we've ever had on this podcast. So.
Wow. I don't know whether to feel honored or to feel sorry for you guys.
We can each take it as a good thing for all of us, no matter how it is.
No, I mean, you should definitely be. I mean, it's definitely, you should definitely feel honored about it. I mean, it's cool. Jim reached out to you. We've reached out to other people too before, but he said that you were totally cool. I got to see a lot of the communication that you guys had, and I was pretty excited. I was like, all right, this guy seems like a really awesome guy.
Oh.
So we obviously don't want to interview douchebags.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them out there too.
So I started looking into different things. I know we want to talk about your movie, but I wanted to bring up the fact that I saw that you voiced Piglet for, I think it's a video game.
Actually, I'm the voice of Piglet for everything.
Well, I did see that, but
Yeah.
I have to know what it's like, just because I play lots of video games and stuff. What is it like voicing a character for a video game? Is it any different than doing the normal cartoons?
Not really. I mean, usually the script, depending on the video game, I've done a lot of video games. Depending on the video game, the script can be huge. Probably the largest scripts that I've ever seen are usually for like Japanese role-playing games. Like Kingdom Hearts 2 was definitely a pretty big script. Actually, probably the biggest script I've ever done was a speak and spell. That was a huge. There's somewhere out there. There's a speak and spell kind of thing with my voice on it. That was probably the largest script I've ever done. That took forever, but just because it was one of these things where you can type in practically any word and then I say the word when you type it in. So that was like just basically reading the dictionary. But most video games have a pretty large script, and the irony is, you won't hear probably at least 50% of the dialogue because it's all depends on the various different paths that you're going to go through down, with the video game. But it's fun. It's fun to do. But it can be a very, very long session.
Have you ever played the game Titanfall or heard of it?
Oh yeah.
Titanfall has, I think it's 40 gigs worth of voice, which has to be the most voice I've ever heard of in a game. Now, I haven't played Kingdom Hearts yet, but I can only imagine how long it took to record 40 gigs worth of voice.
Oh yeah. I mean, it depends on how they compressed it, but yeah, I mean, and that's nothing compared to, I think the largest game voice-wise was probably, because everybody in the voiceover industry pretty much did a voice for it, was for the Star Wars massively multiplaying role game.
Oh, I know. The Old Republic.
Old Republic, yeah. Yeah, that was because everybody was voiced in that game. And the game was just huge.
Did you do a voice for that?
I did do a voice for that. Yeah.
I definitely think you're a lot cooler now. To have something to do with Star Wars to me is like one of the greatest. It's hard to see, but I have, if you could see my video, I have like a picture of Darth Vader behind me, and then there's like a stormtrooper helmet somewhere around there. I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Mark Hamill's a friend of mine.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
that is totally cool.
He was a voice on My Friends Tigger and Pooh. He was a reoccurring voice for that television series, so that's where I got to know him. He's a very, very cool guy. Very, very nice, very humble. One of the nicest dudes out there.
My wife is actually listening in on this podcast, and I have to tell you that she is a huge fan of Winnie the Pooh. When I told her that, because I didn't know at first, whenever he was telling me, he's like, "Oh yeah, Travis Oates is going to be on the show. He's a director. He made the movie Don't Blink," which we ended up watching later on. But I had no idea, and I told her that, and she's like, "Oh, okay." But then I started looking into it. I was like, "Wait a second." I'm like, "Holy cow!" I'm like, he does the voice of Piglet. So I told her that, and she just got immediately pumped up about it.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd and when you're in voiceover too, a lot of stuff doesn't even make it onto IMDb. But it is weird being an iconic Disney voice, and at the same time, I'm a writer and a director. And so I've written and directed some runs the gambit, everything from comedies but to horror. So it is funny, especially when Don't Blink came out, and I did a lot of interviews. They'd be like, "So what is the voice of Piglet doing directing a horror film?" It's always a strange conversation.
How do you explain that to your kids?
Exactly. Well, fortunately, my son is not quite old enough yet to understand that, but yeah, it's a weird section of Hollywood that I inhabit. That's for sure.
So you have one son?
I do. I have one son. He's just 3 years old. And really, and if it's not dinosaur trains or Lego, that doesn't pretty much exist. But he's crazy for those three things.
Jim has one. Jim has a son as well.
Yeah, my son's 6 years old. Just started first grade today.
Oh, congratulations, man!
Yeah, thanks, man.
I absolutely adore being a parent, man. It's the greatest job you can ever have.
Yeah, he's every time I see him, it's just like he just turns into just a little person now. It's not even like he's my little boy anymore. It's just like I listen to what he has to say about his day, what he wants to do, and I'm like, oh, really? Like I'm really interested.
Yeah, it's amazing. You do get that feeling of as your child gets older, this weird. I mean, you should know if it was somebody else's child, you'd go, well, of course. They're getting smarter and they're turning into a regular person, but it is kind of a miracle and an amazing thing. It's almost as if you had like a beloved pet that all of a sudden learned to talk, and was like had opinions about things. It feels that way. It feels like, oh my God, this is a miracle. You have opinions, and you like things. There are things that make you laugh. It's a very odd experience.
Like up until now, it's pretty much whatever I told him or whatever his mom told him he had to do, he did, and now it's kind of like I don't like that. I don't want to do that, and I'm like, oh, exactly. Well, I'm not gonna make you do something you don't want to do. So yeah,
I have not had a kid yet, but I plan on. I think me and my wife are going to be trying here next year, probably January or something.
Well, I thought for the longest time I wasn't going to have children. I owned a place in LA here called Acme Comedy Theater for years, and it was a lot of it was a sketch comedy theater, and it took up 18 hours a day practically of my time.
Holy cow.
And my wife and I, just because of the nature of my career and the nature of her career, we figured out we're just not going to have kids. And then my management sat me down and said, look, you can either direct films or you can run this theater. Which would you like to do? And so I sold the theater, and when I sold the theater and started directing more, full time, we had a little bit more time and therefore had a little bit more sex. Decided to just roll the dice and let fate decide, and as a result, we had a kid, and we couldn't be happier.
Sex always helps.
Oh yeah, especially with each other. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
So is it safe to assume then you have another movie coming up that you've directed, or possibility?
I have another movie that I am supposed to direct. We'll say. I've actually had two. Well, this is the nature of film. I was hired a year ago to direct a film that was a boxing film, actually, called Punjab Tiger. That was it was a fascinating story. I rewrote the script for them. We were set to direct, and then they had funding issues, and so I'm still not actually sure what the situation is with that. But I had to remove myself as a director because I got attached to another project. So I am attached on a project to direct, but hopefully this one goes through. But that happens a lot where you get attached to something and you're like, okay, get prep, you do rewriting of the script, and then when it comes down to it, it doesn't happen for some reason or another. But yeah, I have another project hopefully that's going to go. So
that's awesome, man. I don't want to blow up your head too much, but I know me and Jim are really we're rooting for you now. So
oh, thanks, man.
I would definitely love to see another movie directed by you.
Oh, thank you. So you guys don't hate me for the ending of Don't Blank?
No, we have questions.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna hate you. Definitely have lots of questions about this.
I can imagine.
Oh, and being the fact it was what, released 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, about a little less than 2 years ago, because it was released right at the end of 2014. So
A little background.
I came across it on Netflix. A couple, I don't even know. Like right the night I messaged you was I literally watched it, picked up my phone, and messaged you after I watched it. And then me and Bobby just watched it last week, so we both have an idea of what is on our minds, and we both pretty much have the same questions throughout. So, but yeah, it's definitely an intriguing, thought-provoking type movie. So.
I'll give you a little bit of a background. Jim is actually really into horror movies. He watches almost nothing but horror movies, and he watches all of them.
I know horror movies and boy bands. Yeah. I listened to a couple episodes of your podcast. I got to say, the Venn diagram for people who like Michael Myers and boy bands is a very small.
I'm a very rare flower.
I know.
I've grown up, being in our early 30s. We've grown up literally through the gauntlet of society changes of music and movies and all this stuff, and I lived through it all, and I'm not ashamed of what I liked at one time. It shaped me to who I am today, and I think Bobby's the same way. And yeah, it's like I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I hate that, even though 10 years ago that's all I cared about.
That's funny.
How old are you, Travis?
I directed one of the guys from the Backstreet Boys. Which one was it?
Nick.
He's an older. Well, of course, they're all older guys now. He's got a goatee. God,
do you know what it was? What did you direct him? Do you know?
Yeah, on the stage. When Acme Comedy Theater was active, we basically had a show that was like Saturday Night Live. But it was live on stage, and so every week I had a different celebrity guest, and he was one of the guests.
Was it AJ McLean?
No. Name the Backstreet Boys.
There's AJ, there's Kevin, there's Nick.
Kevin
Richardson, okay.
Yeah, Kevin Richardson. In my mind, I was like, he's got the same name as a big black voiceover friend of mine. What is it? Kevin, and it was Kevin Richardson.
And he is not bigger or black.
No, he's not big or black. But Kevin Richardson, the voiceover guy, sure is. Yeah. But yeah, very, very nice guy, by the way. I'm not really into boy bands, but I will say I had a little bit of a thrill because in rehearsal I got to sing the Backstreet Back Tonight song with him, and that was kind of fun.
Bobby, why don't you play that little soundbite you singing that, Bob?
No, I don't have that. I don't have that normally accessible, dude.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't. It's terrible. That wasn't from that song, though. I don't think.
Well, no, it was "I Want It That Way," but still, it's funny.
Travis, how old are you?
He's my only boy band connection that I can think of.
I guess I have your thing in front. No, it doesn't even say. How old are you, Travis?
I'm mid-40s.
Okay, so you're about as old as my brother. I was trying to think how you would have came into. Yeah, you definitely would not be into boy bands. That's like no. You're already too cool by then.
Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't necessarily like opposed to boy bands, but I wasn't. That was past my like primo concert going period probably.
I think that's one of the more I don't even know how to guilty pleasure type things probably.
Oh yeah, we all have them. My worst guilty pleasure is I like watching The Challenge on MTV. So,
dude, are you kidding me? I love The Challenge on MTV.
Oh yeah, I love that show. I love watching them just rip each other to shreds. It's terrible.
My wife thinks it's like the weirdest thing in the world that I watch that because it's the only thing that I watch on MTV.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I literally don't watch another show on MTV, but I do enjoy that one.
All right, then weird question for you. What did you think of Johnny Bananas at the very end taking all of the money?
Can I swear on this podcast?
You absolutely can swear.
Oh, what a dick. I couldn't believe he did that. I really couldn't believe he did that.
I was just telling my wife, I was just saying to her, I'm like, this is so dumb. I'm like, none of these guys are going to be that big of dicks. And then it happened. I was like, what?
Yeah, I was surprised because I kind of like him. You know, I know he's a bit of a villain on the show, but I kind of liked him, and I just thought that was a surprisingly dicky move. But that just indicates he really wasn't over, you know, the situation which made them rivals in the first place. You know?
Yeah,
I mean, obviously he was still holding on to some of that and kind of did that to screw her over. You know.
I always like the vets, so.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so I guess let's Jim's gonna fall asleep over there. He's talking about MTV shows.
If you listen, this is our 55th episode of the show. We've been doing it for going on 2 years. December will be 2 years, and I don't know how many times where I've just sat here quietly for minutes on end where Bobby was just going off about something that I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. Because we don't enjoy the same things pretty much. So I guess that's kind of our rapport. It's a back and forth. But I just comment on shit I don't know about.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm on your side when it comes to Pokemon Go.
Thanks.
I cannot. Pokemon Go is a bridge too far for me. I love everything geeky, but Pokemon Go, for some reason, I'm with you. Pokemon Go for me, and I have a couple friends who play it, but it does seem to me like a kid's thing, and I don't know why. Because I build Lego. I love Lego. Like, I love building Lego, and that for me doesn't feel like a kid's thing, but Pokemon Go does for some reason. I don't know why.
I mean, it's definitely aimed for kids, but it wouldn't be the first thing that I do that you know I have fun with. It's probably aimed for kids. I mean, I got action figures and Marvel cards and comics and you know.
I mean, you go to Disney's on Ice and shit still, don't you, Bob?
Listen, that was my wife wanted me to go to that, so that doesn't count.
No, that wasn't a joke, Travis. He actually did go with his wife, who are adults, to Disney on Ice with no kids.
I told you, my wife loves Disney. She likes Winnie the Pooh and all that stuff. So you know, I find myself in those situations, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Falls into the same group as like bronies, you know, like I don't understand the pull of My Little Pony to adults, but I know that there are people out there that really enjoy that. But I just don't get it. And Pokemon, for me, it's the same thing.
Fetish stuff, that My Little Pony stuff.
Honestly, I actually don't get the brony stuff either. That's I draw a line even there myself.
Yeah.
And it's tough when I start drawing lines. All right, we have to start getting to
sure, yeah,
to Don't Blink. So I guess we'll just right out of the gate ask. Should we give? Let's give some background in case somebody didn't see.
How many times have you been on anything where you talked about this movie?
Oh, a bunch of times. Quite a few.
Which would have found something because we didn't.
Oh well, I mean, I do a lot. I've done a lot of podcasts like this, so I don't know. And I've done a lot of magazine interviews.
Okay.
I'm just like I actually what you did with it, because like I said, I actually don't really get into horror movies too much. Usually they kind of put me off, but the way this one was done is totally the way I would like it, because it's more, I want to say it's almost more thriller than horror.
Yeah, I don't like calling it a horror film. For me, at least the way I wrote it and directed it, I think of it like a Hitchcock film more than a horror film.
Suspense thriller. I was going to call it.
Yeah.
And I definitely like stuff like that. Usually I need to know what the heck is going on, what happened, and that's, I guess that's what me and Jim were both wanting to ask. Really was.
We were saying it from beginning to end. It wasn't just the ending.
Well,
Right.
it was
Right.
mostly the disappearing. I mean, I think it's totally cool. It is actually one of the scariest things in the world to just think like you could like look over at somebody and then look away and look back and they're gone. And that's the premise of
Right.
the movie for the most part. If somebody didn't watch it, although we did tell people to watch it beforehand.
Real quick, Travis, can you give us like a tiny little like synopsis about what it is for people who haven't seen it yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple synopsis. I mean, basically, 10 friends go to a cabin resort up into the mountains. It's a very remote, and when they get there, they find that everybody there is gone, and everything around the resort looks like people disappeared, like in the middle of meals, in the middle of a bath, and there's no indication there's no blood, there's no indication of a struggle necessarily, but there are some very disturbing things like a noose and stuff like that around. And then one by one, they start to disappear, but it's not the kind of disappearance where somebody hears a scream or something. It's you're talking to somebody, and then you turn and you point at something, and when you turn back, they're gone. It's kind of I wrote the film originally to be, what would happen if something is happening to you that's a supernatural kind of event that is something that could not possibly happen, but it's happening. How would people realistically react to that? What would that do to a group of people like that? And that's basically what the film is about. In a nutshell.
Definitely screws them up a little bit.
Oh yeah, and it really does. I mean, I read a book. I'm trying to remember the name of it, where it was a psychology textbook, really, that was about how people handle stress. Mm-hmm. and what people do in extreme. It studied people who were in situations where they felt that they were going to die. So miners, in a collapsed mine, people in a plane when they're going down, people, in a boat that was sinking. Situations where people felt that there was no getting out of this and that they were going to die. How do people react to that? And that also informed like a lot of the things that happen in the film. It's amazing how we as human beings react when we think that we're, about to end. And you have everything from anger to eternal optimism to turning to religion, turning to sex. Sex is a big one. I mean, it's one of the things that happens in the film that I get kind of slammed for now and then, is like saying, "Oh, nobody would do that. That's terrible that happened." But that is one of the number one things that people do, especially if they have any connection to one another. If they were exes or had any kind of familiarity to each other on that level, that people will have a tendency to pull together and have sex simply because they want to feel something right there at the end. So.
Yeah, that seems totally logical to me.
Like I didn't question that at all when it happened in the movie, and I was like, well, that would pretty much be all I would be trying to do in that cabin right now. But I mean, with an ex, obviously, both of their significant others were missing, and consoling and comfort and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty much common sense. I don't know why anybody would not agree with that.
I think a lot of people just felt like he was a scumbag for doing that, and it was especially when you find out later in the film, that his significant other that disappeared, he was pregnant and he knew it. But it was one of those things where it's like, he thinks that she's gone and he thinks that he's going to be next, and it's just you're reaching out to somebody to try and feel alive in a situation where you think you're going to die.
Look at the questions that whenever you see people answer what they would do if they knew the world was coming to an end, it's almost the top of the list. People want to have sex, they want to have sex before they die. I would actually say it's a majority of people say things like that. So I would say that's not out of the ordinary that something like that would happen.
Yeah. The two biggest things are having sex and turning to religion. Those are actually the two like top things.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably do both.
And those are the two things that probably most often on message boards and stuff that I get slammed for the most.
I would have done both of those things
those
right
two
away.
moments in the film.
I absolutely would have.
It was. I don't know. The religion thing was kind of like, I don't know. Just the way just real quickly she just picked up that Bible and whatnot. It was like, oh wow, that was a little quick. She just turned over to religion all of a sudden.
Well, you know what hurts that part of the film a little bit, because it was re-edited. I did the initial edit, and it was re-edited before it was released. And you actually knew more about her character beforehand. You knew more about her kind of being kind of rebellious and having a restricted background, where she had very controlling religious parents. So you don't know that anymore in the film, so it feels a little bit more sudden. So because you don't know that she kind of had that kind of a background.
Yeah, that would have been great to have. Well, how does that stuff get edited out?
Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, that's it. I'm just surprised that something like that could get edited out when it's it plays so much into a scene that is further in the movie.
Yeah, me too.
So was there a lot of editing?
Is that one thing you would have wished you could have done in that movie, is making more backstories for the characters? 'Cause that's one thing I felt that I was kind of out there on, was like, I didn't know much about who I was watching or what their connection was.
It's tough because there are 10 characters, and I think I understand the reasoning behind it. I think they wanted to cut it down to try and get it to 90 minutes. Because that's considered a magic number, because you can run more in theaters. You can run more times a day if it's at 90 minutes than you can if it's over that. So I understand that was the impetus, but I think it was a better film at an hour 46, which is what it was originally, and personally. But I mean. The reality is, when you're a director, even though that's probably the most powerful position you can hold in a project, you still don't have full control, really. There's still other people that have control of certain aspects of it.
A lot of
there used to be different music on it too, and the music was much better than the music they ended up with. And there was much less of it. The thing I probably dislike about my film more than anything else is the music that ended up in it, just because they make some sequences I feel almost cartoonish in the way that they play the music. So, but my first film, so.
Yep, got to go with it.
Yeah. I was telling Jim. I mean, we did this just absolutely retarded, ridiculous play thing that it was kind of like a horror / comedy thing that we did, and I mean, this is only voice, by the way, and I mean, it was just ridiculously terrible. Fun, it was fun, but it was ridiculously terrible. So what you achieved is way beyond anything that any of us, anybody else can achieve. So
if you go back listen to any of our episodes, I believe it was last October, we had a Halloween month. Basically, all of our episodes was something had to do with Halloween related things, and we acted out and read that script on the show. I can't remember what episode it is, but it's October of 2015, one of them episodes. But
I'll look for it.
Is there any way that you can release like a director's cut of this movie?
Eventually.
Really?
Yeah. After 7 years, the rights to the film revert back to me. So I could release a director's cut of the film eventually. I just don't know if there'd be demand for it, but I could conceivably do that.
Well, we'd have you back on here in 7 years.
There you go.
7 years, holy cow!
5 years from now, I guess. But one thing that made me watch that movie was on Netflix. A lot of the horror movies they're pretty much sometimes see horror movies, and you don't know anybody in them. One of the things that made me watch yours was that you had a pretty good cast in your movie. With Brian Austin Green and Mina Savari and Zach Ward. That's what made me really want to watch it. I was like, oh, I want to see who these stars who actually know, what kind of movie they're going to be on, and it wasn't disappointing. I mean, it was. What was it like working with those type of actors?
Oh, they were all great. Zach's a good friend of mine, so I'd known him for a long time. I actually wrote that role for him specifically. Brian is one of the nicest guys that I know in show business. It's funny because when they pitched him to me, I actually said no. And then they sent me Sarah Connor Chronicles. And I watched that and I was like, oh, because all I knew him before was from 90210.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. But they sent me Sarah Connor Chronicles, which he had a really great role in. And I'm like, wow, this guy can act. And he's a really good actor. It's unfortunate that he's gotten stuck in that 90210 mold because I think if people gave him a chance, he'd work a lot more because he's a good looking dude and he can act up. He can act real well. And Mina was really fun. She was like our big celeb, and she enjoyed herself so much that she actually stayed for an extra 4 days that she wasn't filming. And just hung out on set and everything. And I had a really good relationship with her. Every time she would do a take that wasn't quite there, I'd say, "Mina, you're ruining my movie," and it would make her laugh. And she had a very good sense of humor, and she was a lot of fun.
Yeah, considering that I'm not going to give any spoilers out here, but normally when people rap on their character, they leave, and for her to stay as long as she did, obviously considering her role in the movie, that speaks a lot to how I guess the production was, what she thought about the people who were working on it and all that. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, well, we filmed it in a very remote place in New Mexico called Ruidoso, and normally you would have like hotels or trailers, but we actually, where we were, had only 3 homes in this large area, and they were all vacant. So one home was the home that we were shooting in, and we rented the other 2 houses, and basically they became like dorms. One was the men's house and one was the women's house for the actors. So it helped everybody bond because they were basically living together in these 2 mansion-like homes while they were filming, and it was one of the most enjoyable shoots I've ever been a part of, just because everybody bonded so well. And I think when it was her time to leave, I don't think she was ready to leave the women's dorm, quite frankly. And so she stuck around for a little while longer, but it was fun. It was a fun shoot.
You don't have to name any names, but did anybody have a freak out during the filming?
Did anyone have a freak out?
Yeah, I don't know why. Like I've only done like little extra stuff, but for some reason, twice while doing it, I've witnessed major actresses flip out.
No, nobody had like big egos. Like, I think part of it is, when you have someone like Mina who is a big star, and she's so calm and cool and doesn't have an ego, it has an effect, I think, on everybody. But we didn't have anybody who flipped out or had any of those kind of issues. I mean, it was a very interesting shoot because a lot of the things in the film really were the case. Like, we had no cell signal up there, and we didn't have internet. So we would have to like go down the mountain to send a fax or to do anything. So we just basically got to know everybody because all the trappings of normal. There was television, there was cable up there, but and landlines. But other than that, there were no internet had not made its way up there.
That has got to be tough.
Yeah, it was especially tough for me. Probably more than like anybody, because it was just I was addicted to the trappings of the real world, and that was tough.
What did you do?
But
Just travel
like
out of the area?
Like I said, like at night, everybody just got around and we, palled around. So it was a pretty cool set.
That sounds pretty awesome. I was an extra. Have you ever heard of the movie? Well, I'm sure you did. You've heard of Adventureland, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Love that film.
I'm not gonna say who it was, but I actually heard an actress start flipping out, and she was complaining about the lighting on her, and she was saying that like she can't work like this. I was like, what the heck? I was like, this is like something like you like hear about, but you'd never actually expect to see.
Right.
Well, anybody who watched Adventureland pretty much knows who you might be talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna say who still, but
I'm sure I know who you're talking about. But yeah,
you can make an educated guess.
And in their defense, because I've been on a lot of sets, it can be a very stressful thing being an actor. I know because of what they get paid, it's like, oh, poor you. But it can be a very stressful situation. And sometimes when people flip out, it's because they're dicks. But sometimes when people flip out, it's also because they're young and they are under an extreme amount of pressure and they're human. I know when like the guy who played Batman flipped out on that guy on set.
Yeah, Christian Bale.
And people taped it. I know some of the guys who were on the set, and they were like, we understood why he flipped out because like that guy had ruined like 4 or 5 takes for this guy throughout the shoot, and it was just an extremely demanding shoot for one of my best friends is Jeremy Renner, and the hardest thing he says he ever does is being an Avenger. This is a guy with 2 Oscar nominations, and yet the thing that really tires him out and wipes him out is doing a superhero film. They're exhausting things to do. So it's like, yeah, sometimes it is because they're douchebags, but a lot of the time it's just because they're human and they're tired and they're cranky and and sometimes people deserve to be yelled at.
I know I absolutely know that they do some insanely long work days.
Yeah.
16, 18 hours, I honestly, I can imagine, under the circumstances of what was going on, I don't think that was the case with this person, but,
Look, like I said, sometimes it's just because they're douchebags.
Yeah, but I absolutely can imagine how unbelievably stressful it has to be. I can't imagine. I mean,
yeah, I know that I've had a few friends who do superhero movies, and they said sometimes shooting it's like Chinese water torture because you could be hanging from wires for 12 hours. You're uncomfortable. Sometimes you're wet. Sometimes and all this just to do 30 seconds of a shot. And by the end of that day, you're like, you just want to kill somebody.
Who is the actor you said you're friends with from the Avengers?
Jeremy Renner. He's Hawkeye.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you could tell him that you're on a podcast with a guy who's like obsessed with Marvel.
Yeah.
I got a big Thanos picture in the back of me.
I was a huge fan, and oh god, now I can't remember what it was called, but I think it was one of his first movies was Senior Trip.
Oh yeah, that was his very first film.
Holy crap!
Yeah, I was addicted to that movie growing up. And
oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I love that movie, man. And
I will actually tell him that because he does not get that much. That is not usually what people come up to him and say. I liked yours.
Loved you in Senior Trip, man. That was such a funny movie with him and Meowski and the Stoner. Like it was a funny.
Oh my god, that is hilarious.
Make sure you pass that along.
I'm gonna have to watch this. I don't think I've ever seen this movie.
I think it was really 95, 96, something like that.
I don't know if it'll age well for you. I mean, we'll see, but yeah.
It's funny. It's not a good movie, so it holds a test of time.
Yeah, that was the very first movie he did. Yeah.
Sweet, it's nice.
So I did have a question.
Yes.
I wanted to ask how you came up with the idea of Don't Blink, but I mean, you went into it. I think you went into it a little bit when you're talking about the psychology behind it.
Well,
So
I can tell you really what the main impetus was for writing Don't Blink. And it's the other reason that people send me hate mail sometimes. I was watching, and I even remember the movie. It was like Ghost Ship, which is such a generic horror film. But and I actually really liked the film up until the part where I found out what was happening. And at that moment, I stopped being afraid of it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I thought to myself, could you make a film where something scary was happening, and you didn't find out what it was? Because that's, to me, what was terrifying. What's terrifying about a horror film is not understanding or not knowing what's happening in the film. So I was like, I bet you, I wonder if you could write a film where all the way up into, well, my idea was all the way up into the very, very end, like the last frame, then maybe you find out. But how long could you hold that tension of not knowing what's going on? Because for all the horror films I would watch, I would always kind of, unless it was a slasher flick, it would always stop being scary to me the moment I knew what was happening. So the idea was to have a film where you would still find out what was going on, but you wouldn't find out till the very, 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 very end.
Okay, so we're inside 4 minutes now, but I need to know: are you going for the Guinness World Records of how long you can go, or can we know exactly what the hell the ending was about?
Well, I'm contractually obligated to not be able to tell you exactly what it was, but I can tell you this: if you look up, there's something in physics called the Zeno effect, I believe is what it's called. It's the quantum Zeno effect. That will tell you pretty much. Screw it. Okay. It's been 2 years. If you haven't, it's been 2 years.
Appreciate it.
The quantum Zeno effect is a situation where this is real. In real life, certain particles, when observed, do not decay. But when they're not observed, they do decay. Uranium is a perfect example of that. Uranium does not decay while it's being observed. But when it's not being observed, it decays. Now, nobody knows why this is the case. It's a real weird effect, but it has been documented over and over and over again. That you can control certain particles by simply observing the particle. Basically, this was an experiment that happened. I won't go like into every detail, but it's an experiment that happened at a government facility that was in the mountains, and particles that were infused with the energy which causes this effect exploded over the lake. Over a quantum fissure happened and that exploded over the lake. And before they were, in fact, the boat out there had guys that were trying to get out there. They were trying to stabilize it, and it blew. And it basically infused the entire area with these particles, so that things that got saturated with these particles, if they were unobserved for a certain period of time, would decay from our existence.
That is totally cool.
So when these people came into this area and these particles started to seep into them, it didn't they weren't infused with these particles initially.
Travis,
but the longer they were there, the
we
more
have 1
they
minute
were
left,
infused with these particles. So that's why at the beginning, if you took your eyes off of them, it wouldn't happen right away. It wasn't a certainty, but the longer they were there, the more that was the case. And until by the end, if they didn't keep their eyes on each other at all times, they were going to disappear. So that in a nutshell is what was happening. Okay. Now there were tons and tons of people at this resort. when
Travis,
this initially
Travis,
happened.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have 30 seconds
Sure.
left, so we're gonna have to wrap it up. But I'm definitely gonna look into that though now.
Yeah, but there you go.
No, dude, thank you so much for
I
all
had
that.
no idea.
That is awesome to know all that.
And you're the first time I publicly said that that's what's going on. So there you go.
Well,
Yeah,
we really appreciate it,
broke here,
Travis.
folks.
There you go.
Thanks
Making
again
news.
for being on the show, Travis. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys.
Keep in touch, buddy. We'll be hearing from you.
Wait, get the mic, dude.
Do I go now?
What? He didn't even go yet. What? Hold on.
It's the Jim and Zope cast.